All right, we are live. This is Talking Preps, and Gary is the man of the hour because we picked the Olympic game last week, and Gary was the only one who got it right. So I had to bring my man, Elite. Say your last name. I won't mess that up. I messed your first name up earlier.
Aaron.
We had Elite Aaron on from Olympic. He took a picture after the game, Gary, holding the picks up.
Oh, yes.
So he was the guy behind that.
Good for him.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool. So
I got a text from Langston. He said, "Man, you are trending like crazy at Olympic." I was like, "For what?" And then,
absolutely. Let's hit the button. We'll get back. All right, so Gary, tell us about being the only one of the crew who got it right.
I wish I could say it was some science behind it. If I was that good, I would be in Vegas a lot more often, maybe have a job in Vegas. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of these games that are close, I tend to go with I break it down to these criteria. I say, all right, who's at home? That's one criteria I look at.
Right.
Who's the coaching staff? Okay. And then who is the quarterback? And based on those three things, that's how I break a tie.
So, Elite, how'd you guys feel when you saw those picks come up?
Coach posted it on every locker we had. He said, take that to heart, and we did.
I want to know, Gary, I want to get a little bit more depth into Gary's breakdown here. So you said those three things. So you gave all three things to Olympic?
Well, of course, they were at home.
Yeah.
Coaching staff, I rated equal.
Oh, look
I really don't know the coaching staff.
He got my man on the show.
I'll tell you what, I was trying to poke the bear a little bit right now.
I don't know. I don't know exactly who's on either staff. You know, most of the guys I know are, have been in it a while, 5 to 10 years, who I've coached against. And I couldn't recall anybody at either school that was coaching that I knew. And then the last criteria is quarterback. And, I've heard good things about Olympics quarterback. I know that they've been undefeated, and the fact that they haven't gotten a lot of recognition for being undefeated this late in the season. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with Olympic. And that was my rationale.
Well, that's a good rationale.
So, Elite, Coach told everybody about it. What was the atmosphere? Did that pump you guys up? Because I know at Cox Mill, they kind of took us to heart, too, with Grice's team. Did that pump you guys
it was posted on every locker, too. He's right. We did the same thing, posted on every locker.
And I got that one.
Did that pump you guys up, Elite?
They did, most definitely. He had wrote everything y'all said, too. It was more like King of Somek. There was a lot of stuff just like that, and we took it to heart, like I said earlier.
And tell me about that game, because you guys came out, it came out really strong, 34-21, beating a really good RGL team, scored more points in RGL than anybody has scored all year. Talk about that game and what it means for you guys, because a lot of people saying Olympic haven't played a tough opponent yet, and you guys certainly passed that test.
The way we looked at it is we were looking at it as last year, because the last three teams we played left a bad taste in our mouth. RGL, South Meck, and Myers Park, and we call it the kind of the revenge tour of us. So we went to that game with a give-back mentality, and the way we wanted to execute, knowing that we work harder than them, knowing that we're the better team, and knowing that it's us against us, that's what drove us to win.
Yeah, well, tell me about, looking ahead to the playoffs, likely a home playoff game you guys win on, maybe two if you guys win on Friday. How far can this team go? We're going to have Dale on just a second talking about who he thinks are the best ever Olympic teams, and you guys certainly could be one as the season plays out.
We're going to go as far as we take us. I feel like no team can compete with us unless we beat ourselves. That's what I'm going to say.
All right, cool. Well, we had a little message from Elliot and his team to Gary. They paid a little tribute, so we're going to play that. Then we'll let Dale tell us about the all-time Olympic team.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
Gary, you getting free lunch at Olympic, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know, and you know, I appreciate that the guys doing that, but at the same time, they put in work. They won the game. I didn't have anything to do with them winning the game. They had to go out and play.
No, Elite, you guys play lights out. All right, Dale. Well, before we let Elite go, let's run through these best Olympic teams ever, in your opinion. What do you say about 1970 and on down?
Yeah. So first, Gary, I felt they were close too. Unfortunately, I may be a little too close to some of the coaches at AK, so maybe I let a little wrong bias hit me. But anyway, let's look at these teams. So what happened here, Elite, was I'd mentioned to Langston that this might be the best Olympic team I've seen. And I threw in here the 1970 team because we have to you have to look at them. They're pre-modern era, but they did go all the way to the state championship. Prior to that season, they were 9-27-2. They went 9-3-1. Yes, we did have ties back then. The interesting thing about ties is that, and that one is not a tie recorded in regular season. It was there's a tie in the playoffs, and the way that tie was broken was by yardage. So, if it wasn't playoffs, then you ended the season with a tie for that game. But because you can't do that in the playoffs, they had to determine a winner. And so they used yardage in the game. What a way to tell
about 93.
So 93, everybody or most everybody here hopefully knows Scott Braswell. Braswell, up until this point now, Olympics only had maybe 3 winning seasons. Up until 1990 when Braswell came. And Scott Braswell brought a winning culture to Olympic. And that 93 team went 10-2, could arguably be the best team because they played maybe a little overall better competition. They lost to West Charlotte in the playoffs in a controversial game where they wanted to host the game. West Charlotte complained. The game got moved to Memorial Stadium, and it was a blowout. Those previous 2 teams, I know a lot about them, but I didn't really see them play week to week. 2006, 2009, I saw these teams a lot. Coach Flowers coached the 2006 team.
Yeah.
Olympic got their first, or Flowers got his first winning record in 2004. This team lost to Parkwood in the second round. A team coached by Barry Shuford.
Yeah.
Came to Olympic, and he headed that 2009 team.
Barry Shuford's had success everywhere he's been. In a lot of places that didn't have success before he's got there. I don't think he gets enough flowers as being one of the best coaches around. That's an aside. But Dale, how does the 2022 team compare to all the other teams, and what do they have to do to go to the top of your list?
So let me say one more thing first.
Right,
I want Elite to be able to leave with a little bit of history. So they lost to East Mecklenburg in the second round badly.
Right.
The winningest coaches, or the only coaches that have winning records at Olympic, are Scott Braswell, Scott Stein, Pete Gilchrist, and Barry Shuford.
Right.
So you guys can keep winning. You can put your coach into that same category. So where does this team rank? It's hard, again, to say because every team has their own powers. And to look at where this team maybe – I think it could be the best lengths. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. They seem to be more rounded and very, very good on defense. They can set a record if they win Friday night, which I think they
First undefeated team ever.
First undefeated team ever.
Yeah.
That's pretty sensational. So that should be some motivation.
So Elite, hearing all that you guys can be historical, perhaps the best team ever, how does that make you feel?
It makes us feel like we can believe in the coaches. That's the same thing Coach Thompson has been saying. He repeats it to us every week that we're making history. Like history is being made every day. So we can't take it lightly regardless of the situation.
Absolutely. Well, look, man, thanks for coming on the show. Best of luck to you. Hopefully we'll get a chance to have you guys do another video. I'm not going to pick against y'all no more. I'm going to pick with y'all.
Appreciate y'all.
We get a shout out again, man. But thanks for coming on. Best of luck to you. Good luck at Liberty. Like I told you in the pre-show, I think you have a great experience.
Thank y'all for having me.
All right, man. Take care of yourself.
All right, y'all too.
Alex, not to belabor this, but modern era is kind of not talking about NCHSAA, but it's talking about football in general across all levels of football.
Okay.
All right.
I agree with you with what you're saying there.
Gotcha.
When we had the NCHSAA, and we started merging in.
The viewers can't see what you guys are talking about in the back. We're going to go to rapid fire. We'll be right back. Super Cam. Mooresville won their first league title since 2013. They play Lake Norman on Friday. Is this one of the best rivalries around that people don't talk about very much?
That people don't talk about very much. I could see that. Is it one of the best rivalries around? That's debatable. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like
in Motown. He said it's debatable. Okay.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but neither of these teams in like recent history have been on like the state level, constantly competing for state championships, have they? So I mean, is it truly like one of like the big premier rivalries? I don't think so.
Fine rival.
Grice is
hold on. I'll step in because, we always joke on Cam being young. This rivalry is one of the most unique, and the funniest part about it is the head coach for Lake Norman was the longtime Mooresville defensive coordinator, gets passed up on the job and goes and builds an empire at Lake Norman. I think it's one of the most fascinating rivalries in the fact that the coach necessarily is always going to make sure he's going to show Mooresville that I'm building a program too. I think they're a little bit, down compared to where they've been, but he's had a couple of get-back games in past seasons, these past few years. I think it's intriguing for that. No matter what the record is, you got a head coach and a staff that's going to make sure they show that program from across the bridge that, hey, you made the wrong choice every single time we play you.
And when you go to those two schools, they both will call each other out.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is to me one of the best rivalries that people don't talk about, Cam, because you have two schools that are almost like next door to each other. They're longtime rivals. They're county rivals. It's Hatfield and McCoy. I mean, it's big. It's a big deal when these two teams play. And basketball, football, baseball. I mean, they sell it out. I mean, it's like standing room only. It's going to be standing room only. And Lake Norman has a chance to kind of, in some ways, ruin the undisputed conference championship. That's not the right word, but the solo conference championship the Mooresville could win on Friday. So that could be something to look at. All right, how big was Cox Mills' win on Friday, Grice, for you guys to beat Hickory Ridge? Because Hickory Ridge has been the Cabarrus County Kings. I know you guys came back and had a real emotional win.
No, it was. Proud of the guys. And I mean, of course, that saying that, lets you know how much Coach Jupiter Wilson had done over Hickory Ridge to set the standard for Cabarrus County programs. I mean, I think let's be very clear there that he set that standard in our county to say, this is the premier program. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to go challenge that. So, all about this for our guys is letting everybody know that this was the program that we need to make sure we beat to show that we're one of the best in this county. Last year, even Cox Mill being up 17-7, at halftime, having this opportunity, but not being able to finish the job this year, that was important. I'm just glad our guys were able to do that and kind of finish the job this year.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, Sam.
I think it was a big win. Cox Mill, like you said, I think they have a little bit of something. They have a special sauce to them. The camaraderie of the coaches, the players. I think they have something that's brewing that's going to be tough to beat. The further and further they go into the playoffs because of that bond that they have. To be able to come back from the game was getting, it had a chance to get out of hand at one point in time.
Yeah.
And I think they had they clawed back into this game. They got a fumble, I think, late. And then, Grice's offense basically marched down the field and scored at the last drive to go up. I mean, that's magical stuff. You have to all be on the same accord. You have to have a belief Those are how special things happen, and it can carry on to the postseason.
Humongous play from Sammy Coward to give him the ball.
Hold on, let's give Dale his credit. We did this whole big old segment on Olympic, and one guy that was there.
Yes.
I want to give my flowers to Dale Ross for being the guy that believes he's giving me a special text on Friday to tell me, go get him, coach. I know you got him. Let me give my flowers to Dale Ross, who was the only person on this show that votes to choose Cox Mill. Dale, thank you.
You know what's funny? Like, we made these picks. It's like you got to pick one team or the other. So somebody's gonna love you. Somebody.
Well,
no
I'll tell you,
last night when we put the picks out for this week, I'm like, nah, he don't. You might not like me too much after you see this. That's a hit right there, Lester. You might not like me too much. All right.
At the same time, Coach, at the same time, Hickory Ridge has been a huge disappointment this year.
Oh.
They have been a huge disappointment.
Do you need the one shot so they can like clip you?
So they can get some motivation.
Former coach.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, they like. First of all, give credit to Grice and Coach Baker and Coach Bird. You know, they worked in sync. But something is off kilter over at Hickory Ridge this season, and I can put my finger on it, but I'm not going to call somebody out publicly. But their clock management in the fourth quarter was horrible. It was
responsible for clock management.
Well, that's the whole staff. You know, if you got an offensive coordinator and you tell him to slow it down and they're running fast or they're throwing in completions with a big lead, then that falls on him. If the head coach doesn't step in and tell him, hey, run the ball and chew up some clock, and they don't do it, then that's on him. You know, they had a couple of personal fouls that gave Cox Mill a couple of first downs. It wasn't Hickory Ridge like for how they played that fourth quarter. Right. Now, going back to what Grice said, his guys kept playing. You know, even the announcers on the game kept saying, well, looks like this is going to be the last home game at Cox Mill this season. You know, and they said that from the 9-minute mark until the 2-minute mark. And then at the 2-minute mark, all of a sudden they were like, oh, we got a chance to win this game. You know, we got a chance to win this game. You know, and
what's the funny like?
You know, the kids kept playing hard in Cox Mill, but I think the kids over at Hickory Ridge took their foot off the gas. There was some questionable coaching decisions, and it came back to bite them. And now, you know, they're not going to get a good seed. And, you know, for a team as talented as they are, they've had, to me, a disappointing season.
Well, it would not surprise me if Jupiter gets them together for the playoffs and make a run maybe from the bottom. But we'll have to see. I got my man Jalen Raynor in the back, so I want to get to these last couple of questions real quick. Dale, has A.L. Brown and Concord lost its luster, or is it still the rivalry game?
It's not as big as far as population or attendance population-wise. I'm sure it's still as big to those people involved. Mm-hmm. And the problem that Cabarrus County's facing is what we have in Mecklenburg County. Population gets bigger, and you got more things to do. You don't get as many of the old timers coming out, but I think it's still big, but it's not like it was back 15 years ago, 10 years ago, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Cam, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think either of these teams have been like super relevant on the state level, like I was kind of talking about earlier, to where this is a huge rivalry, at least like Dale said, not to A.O. Brown or Concord graduates and fans. I mean, used to be, you know, that was the big thing around K-Town. You go into the Bell game, and now it's been so one-sided. I think the last 7 or 8 years, A.O. Brown's won, so I think it has lost its luster.
All right, cool.
Is Mike Newsom ever lost the Bell?
I think he lost it like the first year he was there, maybe. I'm not sure about it. But I want to say he may have lost the first year he was there. All right, so the last question, I'm gonna bring Jalen Raynor in. What's up, Jalen? How you doing? You gotta come off mute. While Jalen's coming off mute, I'm gonna ask you guys. Oh, there he is. Now I got you. What's up, Jalen? Still can't hear you.
Tell him sometimes he might have to go out and come back in. if his
Yeah, I don't know.
volume's not working.
Like he's hitting the mute button, it's not. The sound's not coming up. Jalen, log out and come back in again. Log out and come back in. If you can hear me.
He's scared. He's scared.
No, he ain't scared. So while I said log out and come back in if you can hear me. While he's trying to figure that out, Grice, I want to ask you: should the NCHSA Selection Sunday be live streamed and the questions be answered online? Would you like to see all of that?
Yeah, I think, Alex and I talk about this all the time as it pertains to transparency with the association. I do think they do a great job of, providing, a pretty good kind of streamline of questions or rationale for the way they do things online. But I think you have the problem with people not really reading or going to check that. I do think, especially with the RPI, giving an understanding of, to people, because we know how people are with math, really getting that chance to figure out on Selection Sunday, especially you talk about the last 5 out, first 5 in. And also, too, I think giving a path to people to get an understanding of, hey, I may have had a great season, but my seed sucks, or I may have, played a tough schedule and it may not have went, here, good or bad for me. Now let me know what can I do going forward, because that's the whole point, right? You win enough games, you want to schedule the right teams, have enough victories to make sure you're doing what you can to make the playoffs. So I think it would be a fantastic decision and something that would be great in the aim of transparency.
All right, Jalen Raynor, as a player, do you want to see the Selection Sunday stream like they do, March Madness? Would you want to see the picks come out live on the screen?
For what?
For football, on Saturday when they do the picks, would you want to see that?
Nah.
No, you don't care. You just want to read it when we post it up there and figure out who you playing, who we beat on next Friday, right?
Yeah.
Well, he knows where they're going to be seated at. That's why.
Well, yeah.
It's not hard. He got the 1 seed. He over there. I always hate it on the selection when they put the number 1 team and they all celebrate. It's like, you knew you were number 1. Like, if you were already the best, like, what are we celebrating for?
Absolutely. Alex, before we move on, what are your thoughts here?
Well, the only reason I'd want to see it streamed live is so people could see Dale drinking Red Hot straight from the bottle. I think that would be worth the money. Other than that, I don't want to see a live stream show that tells me that I have to go against Jalen Raynor in the first round of the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, that already tells me right there that I'm going to give up a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, at least 200 passing yards, and at least 100 rushing yards. I don't want to see that on TV. I mean,
even Nick Drew's defense.
Nick Drew went up against East Forsyth in 2019. And so, I mean, they have absolutely, but yeah, I don't need to see on TV that Jalen Raynor is going to put up those kinds of numbers against me because it's going to happen anyway. But beyond that, no, I don't think it should be live streamed, because even in the name of transparency, it would be a break from association practice to share that information with the membership prior to it being public completely. I'm all about the transparency, but I also want to underscore what Coach Grice said, that it's people who choose not to read the information. And it's not our responsibility to underscore or proliferate the willful and wanton disregard of reading by an educated citizenry, which is commensurate with education-based athletics. So I'm all about the transparency, but the information is there and can be read, and to keep the NCHSA's consistency of sharing information with the member schools prior to disseminating it through the media, a live stream would not be appropriate.
It's like he holds the jumper up when it goes up in the air. He like holds it up.
He just dropped the mic. I don't know what to say after that. Jalen Raynor, can you believe the season you're having, man? I mean, I just got to move on. 3,000 plus yards, 45 touchdowns. It's like PlayStation. I mean, tell me about this season you're having.
I'll just say it's like kind of unbelievable. It's just showing like the hard work I've been putting in throughout the off season, throughout practice. Like everything is just coming full circle.
Has the game slowed down for you this year? Is it like going in slow motion?
I'll say so. I've been focusing mostly on like the mental aspect, just being able to pre-read, post-read, just being more comfortable as a leader and quarterback.
All right, now down here in Charlotte, we're always talking about 704 teams and all the national rankings and all that stuff. What is the view of Charlotte teams for guys where you are? Do you kind of feel like we got something to prove, or you feel like maybe they might be a little overrated, or we're just not getting enough pub up here?
I feel like y'all, well, in Charlotte, y'all get a little more attention, but I don't focus too much on that. I focus mainly on my school and just being the best leader I can be for my team.
That was a coached up answer right there. That was coached up.
Well, no, I want to know, because as somebody who grew up in the 336, play high school football myself, and then now being in the 704, I do see some of the differences as far as players. But I think one thing that I would like to know, again, I saw you again the last year, the playoff game with Huff. And I think, you guys, of course, fell short, but showed that, hey, we got the means to really do something. This year, you guys I feel like, have taken that next step. What are you looking forward to in the playoffs the most? I mean, is it facing a 704 school? Of course, you always want to get to that big game, but what is maybe one of the things you want to show this year with your play in the playoffs?
I'll just say just being a good quarterback, like just get my whole team involved, keeping everybody just like positive. Even if they make a bad play, just support them. Just back them up, everybody. Like if you keep everybody confident and know how we play, everybody's ready to roll if we play how we play, I'll say.
Hey, this guy's good.
Oh, and he is. And Jalen, I don't know if you've been keeping up with our Mr. Football rankings, but, at this point, in the season, you're ranked, 1 and would be one of the finalists that would come down to our final vote for Mr. Football. Can you talk about, being, one of the best players in the state and just kind of your, what that means to you and what that means to you to represent your community, the East Forsyth as a whole?
I'll just say, like, I guess it just shows the work I've been putting in on and off season. And just the chemistry I built with my teammates, my receivers, O-line, just believing in me believing in my O-line, just becoming more comfortable with my team, my coaches, everybody just putting in that work because we have a common goal and everybody knows what that is.
Sam, what are you seeing on the film in this guy?
Oh, the one thing, like natural throw of the football, you can see how it jumps off his hand. Like Lamar Jackson, like when he throws the ball, it seems like it's effortless. Like he just launches it and it goes 60 yards. This guy has that same capability. When he throws it, he has no extra movements. He's not like he got a big wind up. It just jumps right off his hand. Probably the most dangerous thing about him, though, and they don't have to do it as much yet, is his legs. I think when they start using the quarterback power game, doing some belly work, doing some different things off of this, see, there's counter. That's the deadly stuff that the other team's not going to be able to see.
Dude,
that are hard to game plan.
What's that 40 time, Jalen?
That's like a 4-1 right now.
Oh, no, don't, hey. No.
Were you a running back growing up with Mr. Quarterback? Were you always a quarterback? Look at that.
My first game ever, I played running back, and then I'm pretty sure my quarterback got hurt or something, and I switched to quarterback.
Yeah.
So
You ever been caught from behind in the game?
Yeah, last year. So I was determined to not get caught this year. So
that's good. I like it. You're committed, aren't you, Jalen?
Yes, sir.
Where are you committed to?
Arkansas State.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I'm happy for you. They're getting a good one. I don't think they know how good you really are. Like you're a special talent. I'll tell you that right now. This stuff, out of all the kids that I've seen on film this year, you are the best. Now you may go be. It don't matter in the game show coming up, but athleticism, football, you're the best I've seen.
All right, Jalen. So before we let you go, you got to do the game show. It's a multiple choice. It's a multiple choice thing. I'll put the questions on the screen. You'll go first.
Okay.
Don't answer the question until it's red, and then Sam goes second. There's 5 questions. And the only thing I ask of you, sir, is to beat him. Because if you don't beat him, I got to look at all this chest pounding and all this braggadocio. He thinks he's the man. He's been on CBS and HBO and CNN. He's Hollywood. So you gotta keep his ego down.
I got you.
But I'm contractually obligated to play his little theme music, so I gotta find it. His little theme music.
See, why you always do that? He does that to me all the time, don't he?
I'm contractually obligated to play your little theme music.
Contractually obligated, though.
Here we go.
Brother, I'm not MJ. just Coach Griner, but I'm the GOAT of the game show.
All right, Alex.
East Forsyth won the North Carolina 4A state title in 2018 over Scotland County. East won again in 2019 against the same team Grimsley beat in the next full season. What team was that? A, Cape Fear, B, Cardinal Gibbons, C, Charlotte Catholic, D, New Bern.
All right, Jalen Raynor Alexander. Let's start out with a bang. What's your answer?
B.
B, Cardinal Gibbons. What do you got, Samuel?
Yeah, B is the answer, Cardinal Gibbons.
B is the answer. We are tied. I figured he would not get that answer wrong. I figured he would get it right and you would get it wrong, man.
I'm not getting that wrong right there. Was Nick
you
Drew
said,
part of that?
You just said that because he said it. So
Let's put that question in there for me.
No, not really. I put that question.
Was Nick Drew a part of that? Was Nick Drew the defense coordinator? Then?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was.
Yes, he was.
All right, Grice, your game show debut.
Oh, you don't start with saying it like that. All right, yep. So my debut here. The Charlotte 49ers played their first football game on August 31st, 2013. Which North Carolina team did the Niners beat 52-7? Is it A, is that Chowan College? B, Johnson C. Smith, C, Campbell, or D, North Carolina Central?
Samuel.
Ooh, that's a good one right there.
Yeah.
You know what? 2013. I'm going to go C, Campbell.
C, Campbell. What you got, Jalen?
I say B.
B, John C. Smith. The answer is Campbell. They won 52-7.
Oh!
I'm sure Cam knew the answer to that question.
You realize who was a defensive back on that Campbell team, don't you?
No, who was the defensive back? Somebody from Cardinal Gibbons, I'm sure. Who was it?
Nick Drew.
Man, are you the Nick Drew historian or something?
That's his guy. Shoot.
Oh my goodness. Alex.
Uh-oh.
Why do we do this?
Let's go out. Jalen's smiling. I love it, Jalen. Go out.
Jalen's like, yeah.
Which baby rapper has the #1 rap song in America right now with It's Only Me? The Baby, Little Baby, Seta Baby, Birdman, a.k.a. Brian Baby Williams.
All right, Jalen, what you got?
B.
B. What you got, Samuel?
I like his answer. B sounds
great. You copycat. That's the right answer. I should have put that question second.
Don't do that. Don't do that, Langston. See that?
Langston, that's your fault. Grinder played it perfectly.
That's Grinder's playing. No, because you played dirty. That's why I do that. We need to have you guys.
No. I said no more rap questions. You didn't throw one Christian music. You did it one time.
When you played Pep, I had a Christian music question.
That's the last time.
Because you got it right.
I did take down Pep, though, back in the day. Don't forget that.
Yeah, you got lucky that night, too. All right, Grice.
All right. This actor caused a major stir Monday when he announced he was coming back to DC Films to play Superman on the big screen. Who is he? A, Ben Affleck. B, Henry Cavill. C, Chris Evans. Or D, Anthony Mackie.
Samuel.
Wow. I'm going to go A, Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck. What you got, Jalen?
I think it's B.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
I know Ben Affleck is Batman.
Ben Affleck is Batman.
I know he's Batman, but he's not Batman no more. That's what threw me
a
loop.
Right. No, he's coming back to play Batman too. I saw Black Adam this weekend. Oh my god, y'all, it was really good.
It was good.
Despite all the rotten apples or rotten tomatoes, whatever those.
Oh, look at rotten apples.
It's not rotten apples, rotten tomatoes.
But still.
All right, we are tied going to this last question. And Jalen, you get the answer first, and Alex has to read.
You've seen the dance everywhere for years, but who actually made the song and video for Teach Me How to Doogie? Doug E. Fresh, Cali Swag District, Soldier Boy, Roscoe Dash and Well.
All right, Jalen. Teach me how to Dougie. Teach me how to Dougie.
Shoot, I'm gonna go.
Everybody doing it. You going what?
C.
C, Soldier Boy. Samuel, what you got?
I'm going B.
Dang, Samuel. How'd you know that, Sam?
Hey, count this wide.
How did you know that?
Y'all thought I threw one in. I could Dougie back in the day. That's mine.
Oh,
I mean, that is our generation and Jalen's generation.
Don't you ever disrespect me, Jalen.
I had to my
I'm on this show.
Hey, Jalen, if you make the final 3 of Mr. Football, we ask you to come back on the show. So hopefully you'll continue to play.
You don't want that smoke. You don't want that smoke.
Enjoyed it, man. I love a kid who comes on and smiles, has a good time. Best of luck to you guys, East Forsyth, man. You having a great season.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
All right.
Why, guys? One thing everybody says luck. I do not believe in luck, so it ain't got nothing to do with luck. Remember that in the back, okay?
Oh my God. Let's find out who the Grice's Gems were this week. I'm tired of looking at you, winner.
All right, here we are, Coach. Last week of the regular season coming into it, Grice's Gems, we had some guys who really balled out here into week 10 of the season. So let's get right to it. Keenan Flo, Chambers High School. We've really highlighted a lot of great defensive players this year, and he had a great one, 5 tackles, 2 interceptions, and a big 30-14 victory over West Charlotte on Friday night. Returned one of the interceptions for a touchdown. I think that's the one we see right here. Coach Grice, this guy's really turned into a baller, had a big-time game Friday.
He did. And I mean, defensive coordinator Drake Cannon and DB coach James Akers are really high on this kid. I mean, you can see why here. You look at the lineage of old Chambers, DBs, he fits right into it. A guy that's athletic enough to turn a defensive play into an offensive score. You got a guy that really is a linchpin for that defense. And Coach Akers loves him in his secondary. And I think he's a guy that we got to watch out for. Having a big-time performance against a closer than expected West Charlotte game. This was actually needed a little more than I think the experts might have thought, though. But we had to give the gym here to Keelan Flo. Great job.
All right, great job, Keelan Flo. Let's move on to the eastern part of the state. Havelock High School, Andrew Fraser. He went 19 of 32 passing, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a big 45-21 victory over Northside Jacksonville. Fraser also ran 12 times for an additional 80 yards, Coach. That's a good performance from your quarterback.
Big-time ball out there. And I love highlighting some of these big-time quarterbacks down east. I think that, we used to talk about the mountains not really, really producing those quarterbacks. I think the east is now showing they've got something to say as well. Again, good efficiency here, big-time performance with 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. Excited for that. I love the dual threat nature with the double-digit carries and getting some productive yards. As you can see here, when something's not available, his eyes are always downfield looking for a receiver, and he had some big-time yards as a result of that.
Outstanding game right there from that QB1. Let's move over here back to the Charlotte metro area. Mountain Island Charter High School, Denasia McCowan Rivers in a 39-6 victory over Winston-Salem Carver. McCowan Rivers had 14 tackles, including 2 for a loss of a sack, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and also had a pass deflection. I love highlighting these big defensive guys, and he had a great effort Friday night, Coach.
Definitely. I love the versatility here. I mean, he touched all of the stat charts I think you could for a defensive player. Again, all over the field with tackles there. Again, getting the TFLs that that Coach loves. Coach Robert Washington, really is high on this kid. And again, you see the athleticism there to make a diving play. But I love it. I love that he's able to be a run stopper and do things in the pass game. So had to highlight a defensive guy, and I love it when they can check a lot of boxes.
Absolutely. Speaking of another guy that checks a lot of boxes, a guy that had been on our Mr. Football watch list a few times, DJ Scott, running back up there at Leesville Road, and a big 62-14 victory over Sanderson. He ran 18 times for 188 yards, 4 touchdowns, also caught 4 passes out of the backfield. He's one of those do-it-all backs that can really bruise up a team, Coach.
Yeah, I think, with this year, them having a lot of star-studded teams in the East. We talked about Gibbons, had a lot to say about Wake Forest and Rollsville. DJ Scott's still out there having a great year, and I'm glad we were able to highlight him. Again, they've played some big-time games here. You don't pay attention to him, as we talk about. He can be Mr. Everything for Leesville Road. Got his stats, and I was not surprised with the high efficiency there. 188 yards, of course, in that run forward Leesville Road offense. He's going to be the star, and if he gets in front of you, as you can see, boy, you better bring him down. And you better bring some pain with you.
Yeah, absolutely. A great performance there by DJ Scott. And finally, we've got an incredible performance, so good that we had to bring him on the camera for here today.
Call today.
for Grice's Gems. Jaden Davis, we've talked to him a few times this year. Providence Day High School went 28 for 42, 470 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a big come from behind 24-21 victory over Raven Gap. And by the way, that was the 18th most passing yards by a Mecklenburg County quarterback and a new school record for Providence Day. Man, Coach Grice, he did it all.
Well, and the thing I like to say about some of these games, Jaden's had some of those games where I think he was drinking Gatorade in the middle of the fourth quarter. This one, as I always say, they needed every one of those completions, every one of those yards, and every one of those touchdowns to win this game. Those are the guys I like to highlight in Grice's Gems. And Jaden, that's why you got the call. And, we got to, even though this wonderful performance that you need, we got to take a step back and go to that Charlotte Christian loss. Again, I talked about it as my game of the week. You guys are trying to take that next step. Of course, you highlighted and being the face of a national program or program looking to ascend to that category. How did you feel about that loss, and kind of what did you learn, and what are you looking forward to as a result?
Yeah, I think I took that loss kind of personal. I feel like that loss poked the bear a little bit, and we saw it displayed this past Friday night, and we kind of used that as motivation through the week, and we're hoping that see those guys again. The rivalry between PD and the school down the street. So yeah, we're looking forward to playing those guys again. God willing, they make it to the state championship like we will.
Wait. So you said PD and what was the thing you said after PD and Charlotte Christian?
This school down the street.
Yes, sir. I love it. So, hey, talk about this game. So, again, we know Raven Gap, has been, a big-time program, and we know, again, that you coming off Christian, you weren't getting a break. So, I mean, what was the mentality, kind of the game plan going into that game, and how do you feel you executed it?
Yeah, for sure. The mentality was, this last half of the season hasn't been a break. We're going to face 2 back-to-back great opponents, and we knew that this game had a lot of kind of dictated the playoff seeding and stuff like that. We didn't want to go back to the mountains for the playoffs, so that was kind of the motivation. Nobody wants to take a 4-hour road trip back to the mountains with no service and getting ready in basketball gym and stuff like that. So that's really the motivation for us. And then just knowing that no team I feel like has really stopped us. I think we've always kind of stopped ourselves with unforced turnovers and things of that sort. So just kind of searching to play our most perfect game. We know obviously no team's going to have a perfect game. But the great teams don't use that as an excuse. We're still trying to find a way to win the turnover battle, win the special teams, win offense, and win defense as well. So that's kind of our search and our mentality. But I think we executed our game plan this week pretty well. We knew it was going to be a hard-fought game. A lot of credit. That was a great team down in Raven Gap, and really proud of the guys. So.
Coach Grice, you heard that, by the way. They don't want to take a 4-hour ride with no service. I get it. Hey. But hey, Jaden, we got the $1 million question for you right here. What's been going on with your recruiting? What's going on with that? Any idea when you think you'll make your announcement and commit to a college team for next year?
Yeah, recruiting's going great. Really kind of ready to get it over with. I've been dealing with it for a pretty long time now. So kind of looking at probably after the season or probably after the new year. Just really focused on the team right now and winning the state championship with my guys at the school, and then kind of focus on my stuff later. I'm a team first guy, and that'll come first before any college decision or anything like that. So.
Okay, I'm just, Jade, I'm saying, we got, Langston in the back, he's letting us know he's trying to push, if you want to come on our show and do, like a little recap after. I know you got to do the big ESPN, hey, I'm going here, but, you can come on the show. Maybe we can get you a little segment and talk about, where you commit to. I'm telling you, I'm getting friends that are fans of schools that are hitting me up asking. I'm like, I just talked to them on the show. Like, I know you're not giving me the inside scoop, and I don't want it because my friends are going to hit me up. But try to come back on us, on to talk to us after you finish, Jade, okay?
Yes, sir, most definitely.
All right.
All right, Coach Grice, that's it for another big-time week. Again, we're heading into the final week of the high school football season. Hey, if somebody balls, how can they get the call?
Oh, this last week is everything. Rivalry week, big-time games. Again, reach out. If you had a big game, reach out to me at Coach J. Grice on Twitter, at Observer Preps. Reach out at Langston Wirtz Jr. Let us know. This week is everything for a lot of schools. Playoffs, shuffling situations. Some teams are trying to fight to get in the playoffs. But as we say, these big-time performances are only one can be reserved for the call. But as we do always say, if you ball, you're going to get the call.
You ball, you get the call. Grice, we just had 2 of the best players in North Carolina on back-to-back. I just realized that.
No doubt. That is no doubt about that.
I just realized that. They're both on your list, right? On your Mr. Football?
Yeah, we've got them both on there.
Okay. I know you're taking off this week, but I just wanted to make sure they were on there.
I still got the shuffle right. I'm ready to go whenever. We need to talk tonight. We can talk tonight. But I got in the background.
No.
I got my notebook over here.
We got a lot of show this week. Gary, you got a chance to sit down with Derek and Miles Chambers. They are the I'll let you tell people who they are.
Well, Derek and Miles Chambers are the son and grandson of Julius Chambers. Julius Chambers is the civil rights attorney who made it possible for integration in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school systems, which spread throughout the nation. And in the summer of 2020, Vance decided to undertake a name change. Its previous name, which was Vance, belonged to a Confederate general who owned slaves. And so the school board gave Vance permission to change her name, and they set up a committee, and I was a part of that committee. I nominated Julius Chambers with the permission of Derek Chambers, his son. And then I made the presentation of why the school should be named Julius Chambers to the school board. And they took a community vote. There were other names up. Julius Chambers had overwhelming support, and the school board supported it unanimously. So the first thing that came to mind was I knew that Miles Chambers was at Mallard Creek, and I thought, well, maybe Derek will take his son over to their namesake, the person they're both named after. And he said, I'm gonna leave it up to my son. And his son chose to stay at Mallard Creek. And here's our interview.
Well, it's crazy. They're going to play Chambers this week with the namesakes of Chambers. Here we go.
Many people know that Vance changed their name to Julius Chambers High School 2 years ago, and they haven't been able to put a face to it. So everybody, here's the face. Here's the son of Dr. Julius Chambers, and here's the grandson of Dr. Chambers. Now, Derek, once that process finished, the first thing I asked you was, are you going to let your son transfer to your name? So what were y'all's feelings? Both of you answered the question. What were your feelings about having a school named after your father, your grandfather, but at the same time going to the rival school?
I'll let him answer it first. Go ahead. Oh, you want me to answer? It was first thing. It was a great honor, and it is still a great honor that Julius Chambers High School, the naming of Julius Chambers High School. But everything came down to his decision on if he wanted to transfer over to Julius Chambers. One thing that we've always let our kids make decisions on their own, which will be best for their future, as long as they talked it over with us. At the end of the day, we made the right decision by staying where he is. He's been at Mallard Creek since the 9th grade. He's always played on the JV and the varsity football team, and you can't take that away from him and putting him into a pressure situation. And you know what I mean by that, Gary. You grew up with me here in Charlotte. You know that it's always pressure, and that's one added pressure that he really didn't need. And sometimes it's best that you make a name for yourself without having. I mean, you know, it's a great honor to have his grandfather, but let him make a name for himself. And I think he's come a long ways and made some strides, and he can answer that now.
Yeah, like I'm picking up from what my dad said. It's an honor for the school to be named after my grandfather and everything. But it's like how my dad said, I've been there since 9th grade. I didn't want to, leave the people who I've been playing with since my freshman year. Those are my brothers. I don't want to betray them or anything and go to Chambers and stuff. So I'm enjoying, playing with my playing with the guys I've been with since freshman year.
At what age did you recognize the significance of who your father was? And then same to you, Miles. At what age did you recognize the significance of your grandfather?
I realized how significant my grandfather was my father was back in elementary school. I guess I was 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 years old. And when they brought the Swan decision down at that time, I had an understanding. But as I've gotten older and everything, I really realized how much he really affected and touched everyone's lives, not just in North Carolina or Charlotte, but throughout the country. And, to this day, like I say to you all the time, thank you for recognizing the work that he has done. So I've lived this life all my life since I was a child, and some things I didn't understand at the time, but now, as I've grown, I understood exactly the magnitude of what he did and his sacrifices and accomplishments.
I understand his importance. I say when I was like 9, 10, to be honest, because he used to come, him and my grandma used to come visit me at school and hang out with me for a little bit, eat lunch with me and stuff. So that's when I started to realize the significance of everything of my grandfather.
That's awesome. Grice?
No, that is amazing. And I want to look, going forward, Miles, of course we got the big game, and I've had the pleasure of sharing the sideline with you, so I understand how hard you work. I mean, you're coming into another big game, and I'd state that you had one of the biggest plays in the prior big game that you just were in. So is there any extra incentive playing Julius Chambers? And I'd argue again, if I'm watching that film as a coach on the other side, I've got to pay attention to you. You scored a defensive touchdown before. You're a guy I need to watch. So what's your mentality going into this game, and how do you feel like you guys can attack them?
My mentality going into this game is going to be the same against Huff. Dominate, do what we got to do, and get the dub for real.
Dominate, do what we got to do, and get the dub for real. Gotta love it. Dale, you wanted to get on the one shot for 1 second. So before I go to Alex, I'm gonna give you the one shot.
I've been drinking on this all night because Olympics on fire.
You're,
and I was almost out, so thanks.
That's like water with red.
That cooler's gonna be on fire. That's what's gonna be on fire.
I know you're gonna be on fire in about 30 minutes after the show. You're gonna be on fire. All right, go ahead. Alex, you want to make a comment? Go ahead, Alex.
First off, an outstanding work by Gary Richmond and Jonathan Grice on that interview. And secondly, in terms of Dr. Chambers' grandson staying at Mallard Creek, his staying at Mallard Creek actually is a testament to the living legacy of what Dr. Chambers achieved by winning the Swan versus Mecklenburg County, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Education case in terms of the opportunities that it opened for students, not only via busing mechanisms, but the opportunities that it opened for all students to attend schools beyond immediate vicinities in the pursuit and achievement of socioeconomic justice and increased access to opportunities. So his grandson's actions actually are living proliferation of Dr. Chambers' legacy in terms of him being at another school. And thus we see the legacy of Dr. Chambers creating opportunities for all students throughout the system, living on through multiple generations. Truly a beautiful piece of work by Gary and Jonathan, and a beautiful testament to the legacy of Julius Chambers.
I actually grew up with Derek Chambers. He and I grew up, went to school together as kids. And I hadn't seen him in a long time. And when Gary called and said he wanted to do an interview, I was like, yeah, man, I love to see Derek and to see what he's done as kid. This kind of made me, it almost made me a little teary on Sunday, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. I think about his dad and what his dad did and how much he went to the city, and now they're going to go play that school, even though they're another school. That's kind of a neat little storyline. If we want
one of the things that
and
we didn't bring it up because we don't want to make it a melancholy tribute, but their house was bombed.
Yes,
firebombed. His offices were firebombed. But his Dr. Chambers went to the Supreme Court, I want to say 7 or 8 times. And he won every single time he went to the Supreme Court. He was
as kids, we didn't understand that.
We didn't understand it because, like you said, Langston, I was friends with Derek too. And people would say, that's Dr. Chambers' son. And I was like, well, who is Dr. Chambers?
Let me put this in perspective.
He's the dude who gave us burgers on Friday. You know what I mean? He was just.
Let me put this in perspective for everyone. The point that Gary just made about Julius Chambers' undefeated record at the Supreme Court, 1,000 winning percentage.
Yeah.
You realize that 1,000 winning percentage in 7 or 8 cases. Of course, we're dealing with a lot more cases with the reference I'm about to make. Thurgood Marshall was 29-3 at the Supreme Court. So, I mean, a lot more cases. But in terms of putting it within the context of that historical discussion, Julius Chambers' impact as a Supreme Court litigator is in that same conversation on that level.
No doubt.
All right. We'll leave it there. You guys will notice the guru's not here. He's not feeling well. Chris, hope you feel better. But instead, we're going to let Grice go through the top 10 rankings. These are Chris's rankings. Grice is going through them. So you can send Chris the hate mail. Grice is going through. I'm trying to help you.
Send it to Grice, too.
I'm trying to help you, Chris.
All right. Yeah, I can go ahead. Tough to bring it back to football after that, but we'll do the best we can here. We've got your 1A rankings, as you can see them on the screen. Tarboro still holding the number 1 spot down, fresh off a bye week, finishing up with Washington County, looking to cap off another great season. Mount Airy last week with a big 66-0 win over Elkin. We look at Eastern Randolph. They're holding down the 3rd spot with a game to close against 7-2 Randleman. So, again, a big-time game kind of to close the year as this is rivalry week for a lot of schools. We look at Andrews with a big win over Robbinsville last week, and actually this week playing number 7 Murphy. So, another big game as we talk about in 1A with a lot of these teams finishing up with a lot of the other teams ranked high within 1A. Thomasville still at 5. Survived a scare against East Davidson, only winning 33-29. We look at Northmore keeps rising and faces Chatham Central to close out an undefeated season. Hard to believe, again, a team like Northmore, 9-0 ranked at number 6 there. 7, we talked with Murphy. Again, narrow victory against Swain County. Swain County running that, split back veer. It's always tough. We got a 7-point win against them. Looking to close out the year, of course, as I stated, against Andrews. Robbinsville's at 8, again, falling as a result of back-to-back losses to Murphy and Andrews. Still a really good team at 6-3. Look to bounce back to close the season out against Hayesville. And then finally have Northampton County and then Drawn looking to complete a perfect conference season after a slip up in non-conference.
All right, let me get up to 2A for you. Hope I won't take too long. All right, here we go.
All right, 2A here, 2A rankings again. Burns, they've been holding down that number 1 spot. Been a great football team. Coach Devon's had a great team here. Again, big game against Shelby this week. I don't think we can underscore how major that game is this week. Same for Monroe, having a game against Forest Hills and what was probably one of the biggest games in Monroe in a long time with that great Forest Hills team. But Monroe holding strong at 2. Reidsville as well has had a great season so far, and I think they'll look to finish up the season strong as well. East Surrey, I don't think we've had a lot of change here in this first 5. With East Surrey there at 4, thinking that they're going to finish strong again at easier opponent to close out the season. Shelby there at 5 with a great chance to move up. I mean, they started off 0-2, as we know. Feels like ages ago, as they've got a great chance to make that last good move in the regular season with the win potentially against Burns. East Duplin had a big 13-12 win over Wallace Rose Hill. Came down to the last play, 2-point conversion. East Duplin, though, was having a big season with a big win there. We look at Chase at 7, Maiden at 8. We talked about Forest Hills, 9-0. I can't underscore how big that game is going to be. I think Monroe, that everybody's going to be, in one place in that city with that big rivalry game. And then finally, Wallace Rose Hill at 10. Again, tough program. They've only had 2 losses this year: a 1-point loss to East Duplin and a narrow loss to 4A Leesville Road. So even at 10, Wallace Rose Hill has shown how battle tested they are.
Yeah, it's going to be a really tough play. I mean, all these playoffs are going to be really interesting. Let's talk about 3A, guys.
3A, all right. So you want to go to the video on Kings Mountain? I know we've got to get to that first.
We dropped that. Steve Leiter was up at Kings Mountain last week covering the game against Ashbrook. He had really great stories come out in the morning. You guys in Cleveland County, check it out. Pictures, video, all things. Here's a peek.
We're a team first. It's a unit. We're great all around the board, and we're going to continue to get better. So to play on this team is a big honor. We're an 11-man team on offense and defense is 11 men, and we all a unit. It's one unit, and that's what we harp on. As a team, we cannot be beat, and we won't beat ourselves.
Working that way. All right, let's go. To the house. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a special group. I tell you, the kids have worked hard from the summer on, really all year. They did a great job in the weight room. They've done a good job this summer, and it carried on in the season. And we played well every Friday. And I tell you, this Big South Conference is tough, and our schedule's tough, but we played well, and I'm proud of the kids.
I don't even know, but one next week, we go across town over there. 3-0 in the county, baby. #1 in the state.
All right, Grice, there you go.
That Kings Mountain team's a tough one. They've withheld that #1 seed in our rankings and I think everybody's rankings. As he stated, Coach Lloyd alluded to a big game against Crest to make sure that they reign supreme in Cleveland County. #2, Northern Nash, 9-0. They had a great season so far. Got a big game against Nash County against Rocky Mountain. I think that one's going to be one of the big games that we talk about with all of these games with the rivalry week. 71st has had a strong season. They'll finish up with a below average Douglas Bird team this year. They'll look to kind of go and end the season strong. Same for South Point. South Point's had some big games, and they'll finish up with North Gaston as they look to continue on a winning path as they get to the playoffs. Havelock and J.H. Rose are gonna lock horns. I think it's gonna be probably one of the major games within 3A outside of that Kings Mountain Crest game. Dudley at 7. Everybody talked earlier at Dudley and figured out what's going on. They are 7-2 right now, heading into a game against Eastern Guilford. They're finishing it, potentially at 8-2. It's not a team I want to see in the playoffs at all. Of course, we already alluded to Crest versus Kings Mountain. I think that's going to be a great game and has an opportunity to really shake up these rankings depending on what goes on. Eastern Alamance has had a good year facing Orange High School. I think they'll continue to keep on that winning path there. East Lincoln, an undefeated 9-0 East Lincoln team, looking to finish the regular season undefeated and get ready for playoffs. So we've got a stacked 3A list as well. As I talked about, I mean, when you have a 9-0 East Lincoln as your number 10 team, I think, Langston, that 3A group there is pretty strong.
These playoffs are going to be really fun. Sam is a 3A coach, looking at this. How stacked do you think 3A is, and can West Charlotte play with these teams?
Yeah, it's definitely a deep field. You're looking at all these teams in the top 10. I think we can compete with all of them if we play the type of football we're going to try to do, the colder it gets. But like Grice said earlier in the year, I think it is a fight club because there's so many teams that are evenly matched. Kings Mountain is definitely top of the mountain right now, but everyone else is really fighting to see if they can compete with them, and it's very, very close. It's not a huge drop-off. I mean, you're talking about 71st, and, you can go all the way down to 25th best ranking in this 3A, and we're all very similar, I think.
Yeah, I know that South Point team wants another shot at Kings Mountain. We had Will Ross on a couple weeks ago, and he gave you the pounding on the game show, and he was talking about how they wanted to get another shot at Kings Mountain. So it should be a really fun 3A playoff. All right, guys, let's talk about the Fight Club Big Boys. We had Jalen Raynor on. I have a feeling I know where his team is ranked.
Without question there. East Forsyth there at number one, of course, going into that big rivalry game against West Forsyth, which doesn't have the luster that it's had in the past few years. Coach Snow will be looking to build that team back up to make that a big fight. But don't count them out. I think West is going to give them a big run, but East Forsyth is number one. New Bern's actually one of the rare teams on a bye this week. So they finished or completed their 10-0 regular season, awaiting their seeding to where they're going to go, for the playoffs. Mallard Creek, we know they've had a phenomenal season so far, taking down Huff a few weeks ago. The big game against Chambers this Friday, we know is going to be for the conference. I mean, it's a de facto conference championship game with Huff, of course, saying something there. At number 4, Huff with Hopewell. I think they'll cap off an excellent regular season with a good win there, but they're holding strong at 4. Butler, we have at 5. Again, the 5-10 matchup, the Butler Independence game is going to be a phenomenal game as well. Butler's holding strong there as they've had a great season, as that, again, is another de facto conference championship game with Catholic kind of on the outside waiting for the 3-way tie. We discussed Chambers. I think Chambers has been, around here the entire year. Their team, again, if they're able to be successful, they're going to, really can shake up that conference race there here in the last week. Cardinal Gibbons is looking up to finish a phenomenal season with facing Riley Sanderson this weekend as they, look to finish up on a winning note. We have Wake Forest here again against, I think it's Millbrook. That's going to be an exciting game. I think that's, again, another with conference title implications that, we'll see how that goes. Charlotte Catholic, I think has Palisades in a rare non-conference tilt as they look to play that game and kind of get ready to get into the playoffs. And then finally making it up here is Independence. Clearly understand who they're playing. I think that's, a good step up for them. And I think that's going to be an interesting matchup.
So one thing that Butler Independence, that's a huge rival game there.
All right, hold on. We're going to get to that. Independence.
Okay.
Number one fan, Sherry Carter, says the Patriots are going to win on Friday. I'm not surprised, Sherry, you think Independence is going to win. All right, Sam, every week we do a lineman of the week in the state. And who do we go to this week? The guy you knew pretty well.
Yeah, this is one of our own, Darian Rivers. The big tackle is 6'7", 280-pound guy that's committed to NC State. I think it was time. He's been improving every game this year. And really excited to have him on Frontline Warrior representation on our show tonight. Another episode of Frontline Warrior. We have my own West Charlotte, Darian Rivers. Come on in here, Rivers.
What's going on, Coach?
Really appreciate you joining us today. You've earned it. I've been waiting for you to be the Frontline Warrior. You've been moving guys against your own will or against their will, and super proud of you the way you've been doing things. Tell us a little bit about your commitment to NC State. What was the deciding factor to choose NC State?
I had everything I was looking for, and down there it's like a second home for me, and I just get a lot of love from everybody. It feels like family, and the environment is nice. Nowhere else I'd rather be at than there.
All right. So everybody don't really believe how gigantic you are. Tell them, what is your measurables? How tall are you?
I'm 6'7", 275.
That's what I'm talking about. You had the perfect frame of what they're looking for, those first round draft picks. You've only been playing football a couple of years, and your progress has been great. I just think that you've really done some things this year that highlighted what you do well, and to be on this Frontline Warrior. And you can see this in some of the film right now, moving guys against their will, driving guys, planting them. When you put your hands on somebody, I think you have really strong hands, and when you use your leverage, it's special. What's your favorite thing about playing offensive line?
I say being aggressive, because like back then, well, I wasn't really aggressive my sophomore year and junior year, but that's when everything started kicking in, like the end of my junior year. And that's when I noticed that I have a big opportunity of playing offensive tackle.
So, what's the furthest you drove somebody, you think, this year? I think you took someone 30 yards once.
Yeah, I'd say like somewhere like around there.
Is it better driving someone off the ball or planting them right now? Do you like to kind of, move a guy for 30, or do you like taking them down to the ground right now.
Me personally, I like driving them off the ball.
I think that's better as an O-line guy as well.
Yeah, like getting them away from the play. Like you don't have no business doing over here.
Yeah, taking a couple of guys out the club, getting it done. Darian Rivers, I really appreciate you joining us today. We got a big game coming up against North Mac. You know, I need you to do the same thing you've been doing all year long, leading the O-line, and playoffs coming right after that. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you. If you ever want to be on the Frontline Warriors, please contact me at Coach Sam Griner on Twitter or Instagram. You also can contact on Instagram or Twitter at Charlotte Preps. Look forward to the next guy moving men against their will. Thank you.
Every week is moving men against their will. I got a question in my DMs. Anybody in North Carolina can be a Frontline Warriors.
Anybody.
You can drop Sam a DM. You can drop me a DM, Charlotte Preps. Anybody, anywhere in the state.
Right.
What do we say, Grice? Manio.
Right. Tell them Manny
Murphy to Manio, baby. Murphy to Manio.
Murphy to Manio. Murphy to Manio.
Dare County to Cherokee County, however you want to say it.
Yeah, you could be a Frontline Warrior. All right, Alex, your vocal cords warmed up?
Yeah, I'm good.
No, Alex, not you. Alex, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. So let's look at these Big Ten games. We'll focus primarily on the East here. Clayton and Cleveland. Cleveland looking for an undefeated regular season in the first year post Amarion Hampton. Clayton, which is led by previous Myers Park coach Scott Chadwick, has had a commendable season. This will be a formidable challenge for Clayton, but still always a great Johnston County rivalry. Hillside and Southern Alamance. Hillside undefeated, moving right ahead. Southern Alamance, having gone through that Alamance County juggernaut with the likes of Eastern Alamance and Williams, will be a formidable opponent for Hillside with a great chance to finish an undefeated season. Hoggard and New Hanover, the battle at the beach in New Hanover County, always two great rivals. And once again, we mentioned Scott Braswell earlier, another program which he has built into a state championship level program down at Hoggard. Millbrook and Wake Forest, another great rivalry. Millbrook got Wake Forest by 3 points last year in the regular season finale, which sealed a conference championship for Millbrook. Ravenscroft and North Raleigh Christian for the Big East Independent Football Championship. We've talked a lot about the Charlotte area schools that'll be in the independent playoffs. So this is a little bit of Eastern flavor representative to come into the playoffs. The winner of this game goes into the Division I NCISA playoffs. Likely will be on the road, though, but a conference championship game with two schools 7 miles apart from each other. Another one more championship opportunity for outgoing Ravenscroft coach Ned Gannett. Over in the West, Andrews and Murphy, opportunity for Andrews, which I had that big win at against Robbinsville. Andrews to break their way into what has been a Smoky Mountain Conference trifecta with Murphy, Robbinsville, and Swank for so many years. This can be Andrews breaking their way into that. Monroe and Forest Hills, the battle of Union County right there. Forest Hills with a chance for an undefeated season with a great leadership on the defensive side of the ball. We've spoken about defensive coordinators all year, whether it's Nick Drew or Dre Cannon. Frank Toms at Forest Hills done a phenomenal job with the Yellow Jackets defense and having them in a position this year. Pine Lake Prep and Community School of Davidson, the charter school rivalry. You look at the offensive and defensive prowess of both of these schools in terms of, something's got to give. If both of them are limiting to under 10 points, but eclipsing 40 in the 40-50 range, each game, something's going to give at this point. So great rivalry there. Shelby and Burns, the battle of Cleveland County at the 2A level. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Tuscola and West Henderson. Tuscola undefeated. West Henderson's had a phenomenal season. Great turnaround from last year to see if they can seal the deal with the signature win over Tuscola in the mountains. So great landscape throughout the state right here. And we got two big games in Charlotte that need to be talked about.
All right. It's time for the Grice is Right. All right, Mr. Grice, before we turn you loose on Independence and Butler, let's hear from the coaches.
This is going to be a big-time game Friday night, so let's just get right to it. How do you feel about it?
We feel good about it. We feel good about every game we're going to. Like I've always stated all season long, is based on how we prepare. But this is definitely one we've been waiting on without trying to look past anybody. We felt it right after the game Friday night. We felt it yesterday when we came into the building. The kids are excited for it. And it's a little something on the line this year. We're playing for a conference championship, something that, this school ain't done in a long time. We're still trying to earn a little respect from them guys down the street, man. So it's going to be a spirited deal, and I think we'll be ready for it.
Together with Independence and threw 7-on-7 one night. And Coach McFadden and I both had an opportunity to kind of address both teams. And, the message we kind of gave both groups was that this is an important game, not just, in terms of conference championships and things like that, but just for football in our corner of Charlotte here down in the southeast corner. And that, when we're both good and we're playing big games where the stakes are high, it gets a lot more people interested. Ideally it gets more participation from the young kids, and, people start looking and seeing they want to be part of this Butler Independence game. And, we just kind of get back to where it was, where, we're kind of setting the pace for all the, not just Charlotte schools, but for North Carolina.
All right, Grice, why does Independence win this one?
Yeah, I first off, I love the respect from both coaches, about this rivalry. I do think that great rivalry games are important, and I do think that, they're on the money. And when Butler and Independence are both good, it's good for the city as a whole. But for Independence to pull off the upset, again, we got two great sophomore quarterbacks, and you'll see something very similar on the other end. Justin Little's got to show why he's the best sophomore quarterback in the game. 70% completion percentage so far, 21 touchdowns. I feel like he's been used a little bit more than Zach Lawrence, as I feel like the games and even some of the non-conference games have allowed for him to play a little bit longer. So he's been able to show, and maybe his yards are a little bit more than Zach's. But Justin's got to continue to show the great prowess and really show his excellent ability in Coach DJ McFadden's pass offense. So, I think he has an opportunity to do some great things. We saw in the Catholic game, he really had a phenomenal game there, and I'm looking forward to him being able to do the same. They got to continue to, stay balanced on offense, to kind of keep Butler guessing. I feel like, for defensive coordinators, one thing that always is tough for them is when teams are balanced, you really can't key on one guy. Looking at their stats, you have 5 guys over the 15-catch, 275-yard mark. So you're talking guys that are getting 2-3 catches, a game. That really doesn't allow you to key on somebody. And again, that's notwithstanding all-conference receiver Joe Maraglia, who's coming off a major collarbone injury earlier in the year. He's a guy that's starting to kind of get back in the flow. He's a guy look for, Coach McFadden to dial some plays up to specifically get him the ball. And then finally, they've got to keep their aggressive mentality. I tell you guys all the time, I've said it even when it happened, Coach McFadden can feel like he made a mistake, but I love his aggressive mentality in the Catholic game, and it's going to pay off dividends in the future for him and for that team. I said it even when he did it. It showed that he had confidence in his offense to be able to go down the field and make some big plays. He's got to keep that aggressive mentality. Forget what a lot of these pundits say. Go do that, and you'll go get that.
Run the ball, DJ. Run the ball. Tell me why Butler's going to win.
You better not listen to Grice.
Run that ball, DJ.
Don't get it by being passive. Zach Lawrence is going to show – he's got to show he's the best sophomore quarterback in the game. And I think the difference here is that you haven't seen, Zach, lately have that game where he's played a ton. I mean, I feel like, with some of the teams in the conference, he's been drinking Gatorade by the third quarter, if not sooner. So, again, he's got a 70% completion percentage, 24 touchdowns himself. And I think the key here is minimizing turnovers in key situations. You go back and look at the New Hanover game, and I think a big reason why they took the loss there was the turnovers. And I think, Zach's got to make sure that he continues to manage the game and excel like he's done in the past. I know he has the ability to do it, but, got to make sure that he comes and kind of puts his best foot forward in the game. Doesn't turn the ball over, they'll be hard to beat for sure. The dominant defense got to continue to show up. I mean, look at the stats with defensive coordinator Trip Stone. Everyone brings up, Nick Drew, Dre Cannon. Trip Stone, of course, is with his time at Mallard Creek and now here at Butler, is doing the same thing. They've given up 80 points all year, but outside of the 1s and 2s when it's 60-0 or whatever, there have only really been 48 of those points have been meaningful to the consequence, of a win or a loss. 19 points to Catholic, and 29 to New Hanover. So again, he's really only given up 48 points this season of points with the first string defense in. So it's going to be important for that defense to continue to show up. They're key guys, the Coleman brothers. You got JJ and you got Ian Coleman. JJ has 68 tackles. Ian is leading the team with 7 sacks. You got to make sure you find these brothers and make sure you know where they are in order for you to be successful. Of course, Tyquan Rankin leading that secondary with 65 tackles and also has sacks, I think 4 sacks as well. That defense and that triumvirate of leaders there has got to be big time. I think with Butler, and I love the mishmash of old Hales with a big-time quarterback. I think he's got to establish that run and really take shots when they're there. And I know it says only, but no, take that only out of just taking shots because they're going to be there. You got DJ Horton and Keyshawn Peoples as the running backs to establish that ground game. And then you've got Currents, you got Eli Sylvester, you got Mekhi Carr, who was a Grice's gem and was a big reason why they came back to beat Catholic as big-time receivers to get the ball to. So, both of the running backs, I think, Hales has normally had that one big back. Both of these backs are averaging a combined 100 yards per game. He's getting it done with that duo here, and I look forward to see them establishing that run and getting the shots to the receivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you think is going to happen in this game?
I expect a close game. I'm thinking about going to the game.
Yeah, do that.
I don't know.
I will steal if you go. I will.
I'll let you steal. I think it's going to be a great game because Independence and Butler are always great games. It'll be interesting to see. I think Butler's really. I don't even want to call them a dark horse. They're a team to be feared, and we can really see if DJ has learned from past mistakes, which I think he has. I'm expecting a great game.
I think it's cool because these two teams from 2000, or was it 2012, Alex, won like 10 state championships. I mean, they were dominant during that period. And it's nice to kind of see that rivalry. It's always been there, but now it means something again, right, Sam? It means something.
Yeah. And I think Hales, I mean, he was perfect in his speech about it. Like, it's good for, the southeast part of Charlotte when those two teams are great and the whole state recognizes those two. I think this year they both are really good. It hasn't been a great rivalry late, and I think DJ's turned that around independence-wise. Still to date, West Charlotte has played some really good football teams. We have 5 losses versus the top 10 teams in 4A, and I still think Independence is the most balanced team we faced offensively. I think they can throw the ball and run the ball really, really well. But the prestiginess of Butler is tough to overcome that because they've been winning so much lately. That's why they were able to overcome and take. They just know how to win. They had that one slip up early, but I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. They are playing at Independence, correct?
Yes.
And Grice on here with this Russell Westbrook mentality. Go for it no matter what.
Yeah.
No. Right.
Let's roll all the way with a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
They'd be undefeated.
Hey, Langston, Gary would have been daggone killing me had I ran the ball and set up for a field goal if we would have missed it. Grice was being too conservative. To win a game, you take them by the throat.
DJ should have run the ball.
You already had them by the throat.
You already had them by the throat. You don't need to grab the throat again when you already got it.
Exactly. You already got the throat.
You get the ball, you're in their side, you're in their plus territory with the ball, you run that ball. All right, we're going to talk about the big game, the biggest game in North Carolina. There are 4 teams, the 6 teams, guys, ranked in North Carolina. 4 from Charlotte, 3 are from the same conference, and 2 of them are playing this weekend. And we're going to hear from the coaches from Mallard Creek and Chambers. All right, we got Coach Kenny Tinsley of Mallard Creek on. You got Chambers this week. You're going against your old coach. What's that going to be like going against Coach Wiggins? He knows all your tricks.
Man, I'm sure it'll be a great time, man. Yeah. To be honest, I dread it because, it's a dude that you've been with and worked with, and, Wiggs a great dude. And so, guys that are your guys, you hate going against in such like critical games, especially, what's behind the Chambers and Mallard Creek history and as far as it being a great rivalry. So regardless, man, looking forward to it.
You guys started out really rough. You played a really tough schedule, but you went down to Buford. You lost 56-7. Everybody's like, "What's wrong with Mallard Creek?" and all of a sudden you guys just kind of slowly come along. Are you where you thought you would be, and did that game help you get to here?
That's a great question. I think I do think we're where we want to be. I think the coach in us really wants us to be even better. I think we can be better, and that's what we're constantly pushing for. But we definitely, man, it's been a blessing just to kind of be a part of the ups and the downs because you appreciate where you're at. And it's been a great ride. I think the Buford game was a really good experience for us, and it exposed a lot of our it exposed us, which early in the year you want because high school is set up. It's not like college. Well, college is just getting the playoffs the last, 5 to 7 years or so. But before that, your season was based on being perfect to be a champion, where high school is based on being the best at the end of the year, with the playoffs being a separate season. So that early season schedule should expose you and your staff and your players to hopefully improve.
Again, big win. We know this week going into the rivalry, you and I, of course, were on the other side of that rivalry last year at Mallard Creek. Can you talk about your time over there and just, kind of preparing for this game, and how does it feel? Because it's got to be kind of weird for you, I know, to be on that other side now of this rivalry.
It's weird, but at the same time, it is what it is. I'm at Chambers now. I bleed orange and blue. And we're ready to get after them on Friday. Athletes, I think the strength of this game is just to make sure we're running the football and playing good defense, and keeping the ball from being turned over. I think that's going to be a Mallard Creek's game plan as well. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play good defense. So it just comes down to whoever can make those big plays, the shot plays, what I call it, whether it's run or explosive plays, whether it's run or pass. And whoever that may be, it might be from the slot, might be from the outside. It's one of those things where we'll present the opportunity. Whoever takes advantage of it, will be that guy.
Whoever takes advantage of it will be the guy. All right, Grice, let's go. Tell me why Creek wins.
This is going to be a fun game. But again, with Creek, it's simple. Creek's got to play like Creek. Their path to victory isn't foreign, isn't some secret formula, some secret sauce. They've got to dominate on defense. We talk about Michael Short, which we'll allude to here in a second, is one of the linebackers. You got Darren Hamilton in the secondary. Ish Abdul Ali, one of the terrors on that T-line that made Tad Hudson's life a nightmare. They've got to do the same thing to Bubba Camp on each level. If he decides to throw the ball, really get a chance to, make some big plays in the secondary. Elijah McCoy, another guy in that secondary who had a key pick six against Huff. He's got to show up big as well. Then also they got to run the ball. And they have a ton of different ways they can do it. They've got Ja'Kai Patton is the leading rusher. Tomar Bivens to me is that, that boom back. Just that second half, just guy when you're just tired and don't feel like tackling the guy, he's the finisher. And then you've got Caleb Knight and Trey Robinson are dual threat quarterbacks that, Creek has no problem with bringing in and using both liberally to be able to make some plays happen. I know Justin Wheeler was the starting quarterback and maybe an injury concern here, but if he's in there, look for his arm and for them to push the ball down the field with him. Secondly, they've got to get the ball to their playmakers. You've got, DJ Hamilton, who plays a lot of defense. He can come on the offensive side of the ball and be successful. Benjamin Black is a guy that, is a receiver that's great speed, guy that can catch the ball and really turn, a 5-yard gain or a 5-yard pass into a 50-yard big play. So got to get the ball to those guys and ensure that they can make, get guys that can make plays with the ball in their hands. And then finally, they've got to win the turnover battle. I don't think that's any secret. I don't think that they can win this game and be in the fashion of being a ball control offense and not win that turnover battle. We saw them against Huff dominate in that, as far as those plays and really take those turnovers into points, which was the actual difference in the game.
Flip it.
Yeah. So Chambers, I think their sauce is pretty similar too. As we always talk about, Anshawn Bubba Camp has got to show off his dual threat capability.
Now, you always say he can be Anshawn during the week, but he's got to be Bubba on Friday night.
During the week, he's got to be Bubba on Friday night. So, and we saw that. I mean, you go back to the Gibbons game. I think that defensively, Gibbons did a good job, but they just could not account for that extra guy. They could not account for Bubba making those great plays, and he made a ton of those. We've got to see that in this game as well, as him being able to show off that dual threat capability. Look for offensive coordinator Donald Littlejohn Jr. to really highlight that and get him even in chances to get out in space and really utilize that dual threat capability. They've got to get the ball to KC, and I'm shocked I'm having to say this, but if you go back and look at the stats and even go back and look at some games, they have not done a great job of specifically, targeting and specifically getting that ball to him and design plays. He's a guy in this type of game. I want him to touch the ball 10 to 12 times at least. Yeah. He's your best player. He's one of the best players in the state. He's got to have the ball in his hands because he is absolutely deadly when he gets the ball in his hands. We talk about even the Huff game from the regional final. When he got the ball in his hands, that play to me turned the tide. That bubble screen that they scored, it turned the tide.
900.
Got to get the ball. And again, so I always give this. We should have this on the trivia question. Who's the leader in touchdowns for Chambers at this point? Because it's not KC. It's actually running back Braylon Vincent. So they've got to emphasize that and get him the ball. And I think that they'll be all right. And then finally, they've got to stop the run. I mean, at all costs. I think defensive coordinator, Coach Andre Cannon knows. I mean, everyone knows kind of how Creek likes to make a living. They've got to do that and put Creek in third and long situations, really force them to throw the ball. I don't think that Creek can make a consistent living throwing the ball 20, 25 times a game. So I think that there needs to be a specific emphasis on being diverse in different ways to stop the run. We've got Mr. Football, list holder, semifinalist, or whatever our term would be, Zarian Jackson Bass. He's one of the guys anchoring that defensive line. He's got to be big. You talk about Jordan Thompson, one of the linebackers, group of 5 level player. He's got to be great. And I think, as a whole, that front seven's got to do everything they can to stop that run.
All right, Dale, break it down for me.
So, well, you can't break it down better than Grice just did.
No, you cannot do that.
No. Awesome job there. What I wanted to comment on, Langston, I went to this game maybe 6-7 times in a row. And I know Gary can attest to this. And I don't know, Grice, you had a short stint there at Mallard Creek, but it's a huge rival game. And it's one of the biggest hit games. And by hit, I mean the physicality on the field that I've attended anywhere. And
it's a whole nother level.
It's a whole nother level. Every year, it just is like at the top level of physicality. So if you like to see hits and you like to see players just go all out, these teams have in the past gone all out. So I'd expect this is going to be a close game, just like all the others within this group of top teams. This is going to be a close game, but it's going to be, I think, a highly physical game. It's my expectation. Am I right, Grice?
Oh yeah, I agree. I think this year, hopefully, both teams don't get a flag on the way coming out like both of us did last year. But no, it's one of the most incredible rivalries. I think the kids, parents, all are very close. It was pretty amazing last year being a part of it. Of course, now being held always during Halloween or around Halloween weekend. So there's always that added element of pregame spice that we always know Chambers or Creek or someone's going to add to it. So it's really, exploded as a major rivalry. This time, even now with conference title implications on the line, I mean, you can't make it any bigger than what it is right now.
All right, Cam, you go into the game. You've seen both of these teams play. I mean, what do you think is the difference this time?
I think it's going to be a defensive battle. Both defenses, I've got my top 4 in the state. Mallard Creek probably being the top defense. Chambers around 3 or 4. I think whichever offense can get rolling, I mean, and that's going to be tough to do, but I think whichever offense, has that big play, kind of like Coach Wiggins alluded to, will probably – have the advantage. But I definitely think it'll be defensive oriented, but I think Chambers will win in the end, but it'll be close.
Alex, what's the Eastern's perspective here of this game? Is this something that Eastern teams need to be watching out for, or are they just worried about their own business?
I think the teams in the East, frankly, are worried about their own business. This is one of those things, just like we have this conversation. We had it earlier about the West, the same thing with 704 versus 336. There's no point in talking about any of this stuff until you get to that championship game. Jalen Raynor did a good job explaining it. We've talked about it relative to Huff. We've talked about it relative to these 4 games, Mallard, Chambers, Independence, Butler. We've talked about all that. One team's going to come out of that. The East is dealing with the same thing, whether we're talking Gibbons, whether we're talking New Bern, whether we're talking Hillside, whether we're talking Wake Forest, whomever we're talking. They've got to come out of that situation. So they're aware of it, but it's like, take care of business on the Eastern side, even to have an opportunity to be in that discussion on the last weekend of the season.
Fair enough. Well, we're going to go to Fresh Faces right now, but after that, I'm really excited because we're going to talk Charlotte 49er football, and there's been a lot of talk on Twitter this week about Charlotte 49er football. So I can't wait to hear what Mr. Grice, Mr. Griner have to say on the backside of Fresh Faces.
All right, here we are, Coach Grice. Final week of the high school football season. Let's take a look at my favorite segment of the show, Fresh Faces. Hey, we're going to take a look at one of your guys, man, Cox Mill High School, Sam Cower. This young man had 10 tackles, a big forced fumble, and a late in the 34-31 victory over Hickory Ridge. For the season, Cower's got 79 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, an interception for a Chargers team that has won 4 straight games. Man, I know you see that guy not every game, but also every day at practice. Tell us about him.
One of the unquestioned leaders on the team. I mean, again, better person, great football player. I mean, just a guy, one of those old school linebackers. I think that you would love, Guru. Like just a guy getting, box guy. But again, if he needs to get out and cover someone, he can do it as well. As you can see here, he's great with play recognition. I mean, a guy. We look at the list. He's going to watch the most film out of anybody on your team. Might watch more than a coach or two if he is really locked in a week. But he's that guy that you trust to make the calls and really get everybody lined up. So I'm happy to highlight the quarterback of our defense, Sam Cower.
He looks good. He looks like Bill Cower that used to dominate the linebacker at NC State back in the 1970s.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Good-looking young man. All right, hey, let's talk about the team that you guys beat 34-31 at Hickory Ridge. Jalen Harris, this young man had 7 catches, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns. He plays alongside the UNC recruit Christian Hamilton, who's a top 100 prospect. Harris leads the team in receiving with 785 yards, 8 touchdowns, averaging 21.8 yards a catch. That's a big-time numbers, Coach.
Oh, he's phenomenal. He's a guy, they can play both sides of the ball, as you can see here, but he is a great receiver. Again, tracks the ball well, had some amazing catches. I mean, again, seeing it on the side, quarterback's throwing it, Caden Haywood's throwing the spots. He's going to get that ball, and that ball doesn't do much else other than reach his hands, and he's got that breakaway speed to pull away. Again, it was even though I'm in the heat of the battle, watching him at times and some of the plays that he was making, I was astonished. He's the leading receiver on a team with the UNC commit. That's something I think that's opened our eyes. He's been a big play guy. So happy to highlight him. I think he's going big places, and he's going to be on somebody's radar next year for sure.
All right, hey, let's stay in the same conference here at Lake Norman High School. This guy is the true definition of what a fresh face should be. Freshman running back Moses Morris. He's run 66 times for 412 yards on the season, 5 touchdowns, in one of the top 4A conferences in this region.
Again, a freshman. This is a 14-year-old kid. He's, again, a guy that I think, really high on this year. I think, within this offense, a downhill guy, again, that can get some big-time yards, will set his foot in the ground and really get uphill. I think that, young running backs struggle with that a lot of times and want to bounce and go east to west. He's a guy that's got that speed, though, if he needs to get outside. I like his game. I think, again, Lake Norman's going to be in good hands with Moses.
No kidding. And hey, let's just, this has kind of been a regional show here, these fresh faces. We just kept them right here in Mecklenburg, Cabarrus, Iredell County region. Let's stay here with Mallard Creek High School. Michael Short, this is a 6'3", 225-pound linebacker, defensive end. He's one of the stalwarts of that Mallard Creek defense. It's only given up 115 points. And let's do the math and think about that 115 points. 56 of those came against nationally ranked Buford in Georgia, and they gave up double figures against Gaffney, who's also defending state 5A champions in South Carolina. This is an incredible defense, and Short seems to be that kind of bell cow that leads that team.
I mean, a great size for a linebacker, Guru. If you built a linebacker, for a defense, Michael Short's going to be that guy. An ECU commit, a guy that's been playing that position for 2 straight years starting at linebacker, has the experience. He's played big-time competition. They have not shied away from that. And with great stats and a guy that's been successful, there's no question why he's one of the guys we needed to highlight. He's going to be going to college to play football and one of the best linebackers in the state. But I feel with that defense, they have so many heroes, so many great players. You don't really highlight the individual guys from there. With his the sideline speed there, we had to highlight him as a guy that you got to know.
All right, he's going to have a big task this Friday night against Chambers. Can't wait to see what he does against them. Hey, man, this is another week of fresh faces. How can we get your player highlighted on this show?
Yep. No, reach out to at Observer Preps. Again, reach out to at Langston Works Jr., at Guru Chris Hughes, at Coach Jay Grice. A lot of football players, a lot of big-time guys, across the state, as we say, from Murphy to Manio. Please reach out to us and let us know, if you're a guy that, you think that, hasn't been highlighted and has been doing some big-time things this year, and we'd love to have you on. Substitute teacher time. Get in here.
That's right. That's what the substitute teacher.
Pencils down. Sam, we got to take our hats off, Sam.
Hoodies off. I want all hoodies off, Sam.
Here's my phone. Here's my phone. Sorry.
Yeah, turn in your phone.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome.
Grice, since you had the big win this weekend, I'm going to let you pick. You going to receive or defer?
I always want the ball. Give me the ball, man.
All right, you got the ball first. Should regional football championships go back to being played at neutral sites?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's just one of those tough situations sometimes where you have a team with a great performance or, having a great season, and you get to a situation where, their infrastructure for whatever, CMS insert, whatever reason here, isn't able to hold the number of fans that want to see this type of game. I think that's one of those situations these type of games, these big time games need to be held at places that reward, both teams and allow for everybody that supports those teams to be able to go watch these two teams play. I mean, imagine, a March Madness type atmosphere at a Final Four type atmosphere at Memorial Stadium where you have the 2:30 game and the 5 o'clock game on a Saturday for a regional championship. I think, the amount of buzz and excitement that would bring to the area, bring to the city would be phenomenal. And again, it gives some sort of consolation here in Charlotte, which we're always assuming that our regional championships be held here. Would give some sort of consolation since the daggum state championships are always in the freaking East. Give us something back here, and I think that would be a great way to do it.
Sam? Turn your mic on.
Look at him. He's already losing the day, man.
Turn your mic on. Turn your mic on, Sam.
We might have to get Cam in here today.
Turn your mic on, Sam. Okay.
Sam, turn your mic on. Nobody can hear you.
You turned me off the mic?
No, I did not. You did.
My bad. Here's the deal. I'm totally agreeing with you, Grice. That's the problem. I thought you were picking on me because I was agreeing with you. I haven't had a home game in 3 years. That's what I was saying. The deal is, I've been playing a neutral site forever, but I think that if we did have a 2 games at Memorial Stadium, that would be phenomenal for everybody. I don't think these big colleges, I would love to have state championship games there, to be honest with you, not just regional championships, state championship games, because it's big enough to hold a lot of people, but you don't feel diluted compared to like those big college stadiums. You go to these state championship games, the environment is terrible because there's no way we're putting 50,000 fans in there for a state championship game. But you could pack 10,000 in Memorial Stadium. I think those are the type of things we need to get to and not go to these big colleges as well.
Okay. All right. Last week, the Panthers traded two of their offensive weapons, main one being Christian McCaffrey. By the way, Grice, Shanahan better start using him more. But anyway, are the Panthers better off tanking for the number 1 pick, or should they continue to try to build a winning culture for whomever is the next coach? Sam, you first.
Well, players, this is the thing. They are all professional athletes. And whenever they get the sense that, oh, you're tanking, they rise up. You're going to get the best. The key is, can they sustain that throughout the rest of the season? I think that Wilkes is doing a great job. If he can sustain that, he should stay the coach. And you will still get good picks. It doesn't mean you have to win all the games going here on out, but you need to finish off strong, and you'll still get a great draft pick. It's never – have the Patriots ever tanked and it worked out for them? No. Patriots just do their due diligence, and they've been successful for all those years. Doesn't do any good for tanking because you might miss. The number 1 draft pick might not be the best quarterback. I mean, Josh Allen, what pick did he go in back in the day? I don't think he was number 1. You know, I mean, think about that. Like, having number 11 pick might be the right pick. You can't just all of a sudden switch on a culture next year. Like, okay, let's switch it up now and let's start competing. It has to be year round. And I think they did a great job of just saying, hey, we got a lot of draft picks for McCaffrey. Now let's win some football games. And I think you saw that rise up in those professional athletes. Oh, you think we're tanking? We'll show you differently.
I'm protesting this question. I hate these kind of questions. You can tell a basketball enthusiast wrote this question. You don't tank in the NFL. Like, I hate that crap. Like, what are you tanking for? One player is not going to change it. I don't care if Bryce Young turns out to be the freaking best quarterback. You still could potentially go have a 3 or 4 win team. Trevor Lawrence is actually playing pretty doggone good, but because the Jags have so many other pieces they need to figure out, you're not turning into a 10 to 12 win team just off of one person in football. Basketball is completely different from that. And again, a lot of times these first 5 to 7 picks, the need is completely different. But another reason why I don't think they should is because you got somebody like a PJ Walker, who's a great story, who's showing you if I can win or I can perform well in these next 5 to 10 games, I could be a quarterback to go get a big payday. And if I don't start here, I'm going to go start for another QB needy team. So I just think the whole concept of tanking in football is just terrible to me. So I don't know.
Grice.
Basketball enthusiast.
That is such a basketball thing to say. People don't tank.
Basketball enthusiast. You didn't hurt my feelings because you made me think of it from a football perspective. And like you said, one player doesn't change a football roster the same way one player.
A basketball game. You're exactly right. That's exactly true.
That I hadn't thought of it that way. Not that I agree with tanking anyway, but I hadn't thought of it one sport versus another. So good answer, Grice. I like that one.
He just copied my answer.
No, I did. I use better
Good
words.
answer. Good answer, Grice.
I use my Alex Bass words. You gotta try that.
All right, guys. The Charlotte 49ers had to fire their coach this week, and they have a lot coming on their plate. You know, they're joining a new conference. They're moving up. They got to build. They got to add on to the stadium, which means they got to sell tickets. Mm-hmm. How can the Charlotte 49ers turn their football program around while at the same time moving up in competition? Grice?
Yeah, and I know Cam's probably going to be spamming our freaking group chat there in the back. I know y'all can't see it, but we're going to see this as I'm answering. It's going to go blue, blue, blue. So sorry if I seem distracted. The first thing to me that I think they need to do is just dominate the area as far as recruiting. It's something that's continued to be said, but I'm sorry. People just struggle to do it. And I thought that Healy would start to do that in the beginning. But I think one of the things that he hasn't done has been to do that. You know, I compare and I look at John C. Smith and Coach Flowers coming in there with, you know, here in Charlotte. One of the first things he did is if we're going to be young, we're going to have young talent. You had the boy Newman from, you know, South Mac is already one of their key starting running backs there. UNC Charlotte has to do the same thing. If you can't get the people inside of your city and in your area to buy in, you're not going to get consistent talent to come here. I think another thing that they have to be able to do is really focus on hiring coaching talent here. And I think that's going to be one of the big things is putting all your resources in to bringing in a quality coach. I look at A&T, another area program that has done a great job. The first time when A&T really turned their program up and beat UNC Charlotte not too long after was really opening up the checkbook to make sure they were bringing in a quality coach as they stole Coach Broadway from Grambling. So again, bringing in coaching talent, opening up the pocketbook, because again, they had Coach Houston from ECU here ready to go, and what happened? ECU paid more money, and he went and left there, and they had to go to their next best option. So adding their coaching budget to make sure they're bringing in a quality coach.
So in other words, they need a football sugar daddy. They need a football sugar daddy.
So, in Gary Richmond terms, football sugar daddy, bring in Charlotte kids. Those are the two things that they need to be successful.
Sam?
I think Grice is hitting on some things there that are very true. We have to win Charlotte. You know, people in the back say, well, they got a lot of people in Charlotte. No, we would know the names that they have. I'm not saying you're going to get Hollywood Smothers or things of that nature, but you have to start building those relationships with Hollywood Smothers. Say it doesn't work out with him in Oklahoma. The next school, when they transfer, why would he not come back to Charlotte? You see what I'm saying? Like, that guy loved me, you know? And I think that's going to come with a guy that has great relationships. Someone has just killed Charlotte with recruiting. I think it's not going to be a big name head coach that's going to do this. You know, I heard people talking about Dan Mullen doing different things like that. I don't want a big name guy. I don't want them to come to Charlotte and look at this, oh, well, I'll just settle here for a second and think that it's okay. I want a guy that's up and coming. I want a great assistant coach that has been grinding in the Charlotte area, that knows the coaches, knows the culture that we're around, and been here multiple times. And I can name some guys. Gunnar Brewer, phenomenal recruiting in this area. He would be a great head coach. He would do phenomenal of keeping those relationships. And we might not hit the big guys, but they would come back and transfer portal type things like that. That's how you build it. Charlotte, you don't have to go far outside of here in surrounding areas of Charlotte to build a great football program. Look at the guys that have come out of here and been great for Clemson. You know, other players, Syracuse has got starting guys from Charlotte area, surrounding areas. Like, think about the guys that are just a little drop off, maybe not quite the measurables. You got to get those guys instead of stuff going to the Midwest. There's too many guys. I mean, they're recruiting guys in the Midwest, and then you going into Florida, going into getting guys. Everybody in the whole country is going to Florida. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to own Charlotte, and we have not done that. They did a great job of feeding us wings and beer and building a relationship with us and saying that, hey, we're late on everybody. You know, we're going to make sure we're right. That's such bull crap. No, go get it. Say, I'm going to offer him first. I see the talent. Recognize what you see. Go get it. Trust it. Don't wait for Appalachian and Army and all these other schools to offer a kid. But like, you know what? Let's get in the mix now. Be first and own it and win it. It's going to take a younger guy that knows that, not necessarily a younger guy, but a guy that's up and coming. Gunnar Brewer, Jay Bateman, another guy that might be the Campbell coach. Mike Minner might be a great one that's building some relationships. I just don't see Mike Minner enough necessarily. I don't know if he has those relationships, but he's done a good job recruiting this area.
Okay. Now, and usually we have three, but it's such an interesting topic. We're going to add to it, and I think both of you touched on it a little bit, is the idea that Charlotte, UNC Charlotte is located here, make it harder for them to recruit local talent, because we understand that most kids want to go away to college. Is that something that deters their recruiting? Sam, your turn first.
Yeah, absolutely not. Kids want to come here. The problem is when Charlotte is the fifth school to offer a kid that's a FBS program, like say they have 4 or 5 offers and Charlotte is 5th or 6th, they don't have a prestigious enough program to be last. They were running the program like they're Clemson. You know what I'm saying? Well, you know what? We could be last. They can have 15 offers, but guess what? We're going to dangle that little Clemson offer, and all of a sudden we could pull the guy over. It don't work that way. You got to be bold at being able to analyze who you want. Own Charlotte. Go see the talent. Be first. You know what? That kid ain't got no offers. That's a kid I want right there. He's special. Then he'll start getting more offers, probably because he's talented enough. But you have a guy has to recognize the talent and be able to go after them early and trust that aspect and build a relationship with those coaches. And don't be afraid to still communicate to the big name guys that are going to, Notre Dame and all these things. Build those relationships, keep the relationship with the coaches. And if it doesn't work out, you win the transfer portal. You'll win games 3 to 4 years, and you have to, empty the pockets and try to get, a good coach to be able to do that here and stay here.
Grice.
I'm all with Sam 100%. It's not, the location is not a deterrent. Just like with a school like a Georgia Tech in Atlanta, or just certain schools, you have to have relatable people, relatable coaches that are able to go into the schools. And hey, you have to be risky. You have to say, hey, I'm willing to be first here. And I think that's a lot of the problems that you would see. And even I can point at some of the guys that some of the guys that I was around. I mean, being at Hopewell with a guy like Julian Gray, who made the Big 22. He got his UNC Charlotte offer probably 10 offers later. That wasn't the first guy. And again, the kid ran a 4.4 as a rising junior. Like, what more do you need to see? He was at your camp in front of you, didn't have an offer at the time, and you didn't offer, and he proceeds to go to Carolina, Wake, Virginia Tech, and so forth and so on. Looking at Mallard Creek, I mean, you've got a guy like Michael Short, we highlighted on Fresh Faces, that has 20 offers. Will Healy was on our campus, was there looking at us practice, and didn't offer that kid when he had no offers. I look now, being at Cox Mill, I've got 2 guys that are committed to Mercer. They're FCS programs. If you feel like you're above that, fine, but take your chances on guys who may very well outplay their commitment and go somewhere else. I look at some of these schools, Griner, I mean, the Rivers kid, like, those have got to be the places that you can go in and say, you know what, you may be better than this, you may be worse than this, whatever, what have you, but you need to choose here first. And I'm sure Cam's got a better take on it than all of us, but that has been the consistent problem that Griner talked about. Griner didn't drink the beer, y'all, just so you're aware.
Right.
But yeah.
All right, Cameron's been waiting all day, all night to talk about this subject. I know it's near and dear to his heart. I hope that the Charlotte fans heard from real coaches that are out actually dealing with the recruiting stuff. Grice and Sam definitely hit some great points. Things I've been hearing all day. I've heard from a lot of guys that used to play around here. They were upset that Charlotte did not recruit them. And some of them went on to play at a pretty decent level of football other places. But Cameron, I'm going to put you on screen. We're going to put that first question back up. What should Charlotte do to turn their football program around?
It starts with hiring the right guys. It really starts with that. I agree in some aspects of what Grice and Sam were hitting on as far as recruiting in your backyard, but I do have a roster here, and there's a plethora of guys. Mallard Creek, just tons of guys from the Charlotte area, and so I don't think it's just a recruiting issue. I think you have to get guys that be committed to turning the program around. I mean, I liked Will Healy a lot. I think he was a good relationship guy. And I mean, he did offer guys like Dalen Smothers. He was in contact with them. That was half of our conversations, is talking about just, the relationships he was trying to build with these guys. I mean, you got Henry Rutledge from Charlotte Christian. Yes, he was a walk-on that just received a scholarship, but I mean, turning it around starts with finding the right coaches, finding the right coordinators.
You said exactly what we were talking about. You said Henry. That kid should have been offered from right from the get-go. They could have lost him. He was a talented enough player to get him. They often Smothers after he's got daggone ACC.
And that's the problem. Like, yes, they're offering.
You're not going to get him.
Even the Charlotte saying, J.K. Washington.
So what Grice was saying, and Sam, and I agree fully. And Sam, I liked your point of go find the guy that doesn't have any offers right now. Get relationships with coaches, local coaches, and those coaches. Sam, I know you could tell a coach honestly who on your team has no offers, but can play at a certain level, be it a Power 5 or be it at D2, and you could put them onto the players. I don't think what they're getting is you got to get in first. You may not win, but if you establish that relationship, when things fall apart for them later, which unfortunately is going to happen with some of them, they're going to have to go somewhere, and they're going to remember who.
And that works. Like Sam said, being first, Chris Paul went to Wake Forest, and he had offers everywhere by his junior year, but he said he went to Wake Forest because they offered him first. They offered him before Carolina, before State, before Duke. Now, 2 years later, here come the other 3 oh, come to our school. You didn't think that of me when Wake Forest did. And that's a key right there, what Sam was mentioning. Don't be afraid to go first. UNCC has had a history of feeling insecure about rejection. That's their problem. I've watched that when I was
basketball too, for that matter. That's a great point.
Especially in basketball.
I don't want to take Cameron's.
Yeah, see if
Cameron,
Cameron,
go ahead and give us your thoughts, because I know you've been chomping at the bit, and I promise I'll let you go. So it's your,
and I don't want to cut my own throat here, but at the same time, Charlotte fans, the fan base in general, has to realize that this is still a young program. I mean, we're 10 years in, and we're not going to get the best of the best coming out of the Charlotte area. It's just they're still going to go to, like Langston, you mentioned, I think it was yesterday. They're still going to go to the NC States, the Chapel Hills, the Dukes, the Wake Forest. But, we brought up the fact that, you establish these relationships and they'll come back. Nolan Gruel's a perfect example. He's a receiver converted to corner this year. He went to Wake Forest. He's come back to Charlotte now after transferring back, and he's having a lot of success on the field. So it is about establishing those relationships, but Charlotte fans also have to be realistic in their expectations.
Yeah, I agree. Alex.
All right, real quick. Great point Gary made about Chris Paul and his recruiting. I could tell you all the stories behind the scenes on that. We don't have enough time to talk about some of the things that happened in that recruiting situation. But the other point, this Charlotte situation is akin to an Eastern North Carolina basketball situation back in the 2005-2006 academic year, when Ricky Stokes was hired at East Carolina as the men's basketball coach. So this is the same kind of deal in terms of a Division I program, but not a Power 5 program. So Ricky Stokes was hired at East Carolina in Greenville, 25 miles from Kinston, North Carolina. And in the first whole cycle, so the 2005-2006 cycle, from the summer to preseason workouts through the season, back to get ready for recruiting again, that whole first cycle, not a single member of the ECU men's basketball coaching staff ever set foot in Kinston High School. Are you kidding me? Now, we're talking 05, 06. There was an 8th grader in Kinston named Reggie Bullock. He turned out to be okay, by the way. Now, you're not going to get Reggie Bullock. That's fine. But I could also run off of the list of several guys who played with Reggie Bullock. Dory Hines, who's now the head coach at Mount Olive, who was the NCAA's assist to turnover ratio leader for Division II when he played collegiately. Dory Hines, or Bo Ingram, who was Brandon Ingram's older brother, who was the ACC Player of the Year, graduated from Kinston in 2008. Those are just 2 examples right there. And you tell me that the ECU men's basketball coaching staff didn't set foot in Kinston High School in that first year? That's what we have here.
Yeah, I think the next Charlotte coach definitely has to have a better relationship with Coach Griner and Grice and all these local coaches. The one thing, Jalen Alexander says he's going to Arkansas State. Is that what he said, guys, earlier?
Yeah.
Why? That's it.
Why not? That's it right there.
Locked up.
That's it.
Why not?
Locked up.
That's it.
Why not?
I
don't understand it. Even if he doesn't play quarterback, he's a great receiver, a safety. He is a dog.
He passes to Dickens.
Do you understand that?
Hire Joe Cox.
Hire Joe Cox.
Gunnar Brewer's a great recruiter. Cam, last word on this. We got to move on. Cam, go ahead.
Gunnar Brewer's old.
Just if you want to win, you got to put the right coaches in place, and then ultimately just have more realistic expectations. And if you want to win, you got to win continuously, and that way you'll get the best recruits. You don't just win one season and go to a bowl game, lose that bowl game, and then expect to get the recruits.
Absolutely.
No, I get it.
All right, so we're very heavy. It's time for the big star to get in it. You want to make this your last thought? It's your last thought. It's your show.
It ain't gonna beat out the other deal. I want to talk about what Gary was talking about earlier. On October 12th, Charles Adams McCullough was approved to be called the Athletic Center at West Charlotte. I think this is a huge deal. I'm very excited. The ribbon will be cutting. We don't know yet, but the date will be set probably by tomorrow. The cool thing is I've really tried to take ownership of really understanding the history of West Charlotte. I think I needed to do a better job of that. And I just really appreciate, a guy named Butch, Tim Gibbs. They did something really special with me about a week and a half ago. They took me to Jack Martin's gravesite and really told me the history about Jack Martin. And Jack Martin actually brought in Charles McCullough as a defensive line coach, and he became the basketball coach. And so it's a lot of history that a lot of people didn't know, and I just really appreciated those guys that played for Jack Martin, and they told me a little bit about Charles as well. And it blew my mind. I literally got teary-eyed when I was at the gravesite because the history of West Charlotte is beyond my own understanding. And I'm just proud to be at West Charlotte, and I want to retire at West Charlotte. I mean that. And it's just, I'm excited. So whenever you get an opportunity to come see the new gym, it will be Charles Adams McCullough Athletic Center. When they cut the ribbon, come see the former state champions, and they're going to go on and try to win another state championship this year.
The best boys basketball coach I've ever seen or been around is Charles McCullough. They went to 21, I think, straight regionals, or won 20 straight conference championships. One is, I might have them reversed, but I mean, he had just a phenomenal run of excellence at that school. Tommy Driver's ed too, by the way.
Hey, Langston, it's kind of funny. After we went through the naming process to get Vance turned into Chambers, a lot of the people that voted and supported it were West Charlotte graduates. And soon as the school board approved it, then they started emailing, texting me. They said, all right, your next project is Coach McCullough.
It took way too long. I mean, he retired in 90. He retired in 94 from high school coaching. And I mean, it should have been done, shortly after. Leroy Holden, also one of the best coaches I've ever seen, had his name on the court before McCullough, and that just, I mean, they should have been at least around the same time. I'm glad it's happening now. I'm glad that people are kind of remembering Coach. And, we've done some tributes in the paper. We're super heavy. It's 10:05. We're over 2 hours long. Dale has a special announcement for his Olympic fandom. If Olympic beats Marsh Park Friday, Dale's going to drink Reaper sauce at Buffalo Wild Wings on Friday. Are you really?
Or I might do the Blazing Reaper challenge, which is 10 of those wings, whichever.
Oh my goodness.
Just whoever, what I'm going to need is for we need to put this out on Twitter. Link.
Which Wild Wing?
It'll be the Buffalo Wild Wings here at at Rivergate.
Rivergate,
in the middle of Olympic area.
All right, so we need Gary to come, so all the football players can come and treat Gary to a free bucket of wings.
I'm not eating them wings. I can tell you that much.
You can eat the sweet wings, brother.
All right, we're super heavy. I appreciate, man, a lot of people still watching. I appreciate all 27 of y'all still staying with us. That is Sam Griner. He's the head football coach of West Charlotte. He just said he wants to stay there until he retires. Sam is 27, so he has another 30 years left of coaching in West Charlotte. So we wish him well. Alex Bassett-Contrary with all the big words. Mr. Thesaurus. I don't understand half what you're saying, but it just sounds really good to me. Gary Richmond, my friend. Dale Ross, one of the historians of CMS, proud to have him. Jonathan Grice, the number 2 voice of high school football, North Carolina. The guru in training, Cameron Williams. I'm Langston Wirtz, and we are Talking Preps.
So, Sam, you need to